Okay. After Snoop left, there was the incident at the at the Master P show or whatever. The guy who works for No Limit or worked for No Limit, who was kind of Master P's right hand man, did an interview recently, and I'll just tell you his kind of brief side of the story, and then you can kind of fill in the blanks or tell me what was missed or what was accurate or not. So he basically said that you guys came around at the show and that Snoop kind of got out of pocket by breaking away from the rest of the No Limit people, and that one of you guys laid hands on him. He took off running. He ran directly into the police, and that he had like a pound of weed or something on him when he ran up to the cops. But where it changes is that he says when Snoop was running, that you guys were running after him, and that they started, the whole No Limit entourage ran after you guys, and that LAPD pulled the weapons on them, and that they, were ordered to get on the ground, that they turned around and went back into the arena, and that they saw you guys and quote unquote put you in check, and then they had the limos pull out front, and they went out with the crowd, got in their cars, and got away. That was his short kind of version of it. Can you tell me your side of it from the beginning as far as when you decided to go over there? What was the motivation and what was the plan?
Well, the motivation was there to go to talk to Snoop, because that's when had just been released or signed his rights to P. And so, but he was being disrespectful at the time. So we was going to talk to him. We went to talk to him, me and P, because we had been on the phone dealing with each other, me and P, and a guy named Mark Benish. That's who ended up taking Snoop over to TVT Records and started running it. He used to be like the number 2, number 3 guy at Priority. His name was Mark Benish. So they were there. I was there kicking it with Mark Benish and talking to Mark Benish. And then P came over like, "What's up, Reg? How you doing, bro?" And, we talked for a minute, and I was like, "Hey, we need to holler at Snoop." Because, Snoop and them was off to the back and in a different room, in a green room. And so he said, "Yeah, Reg, go." And he took me and, showed me, "Hey, this is Reg and them from Death Row. They need to holler at Snoop. They got some unfinished business they need to handle," is the exact words. And they left and they went and got on the stage. Left. So now Snoop and them, there with his people. Daz was even with them that particular night. And Daz was still with us. We was about to do a video shoot for Daz on that particular, in a week or two coming up. We had a budget for $350,000 to do a video shoot for him. And so I remember, so we go in there and I'm talking like, "Snoop, man, why you dissing the homie? You doing all this dissing and talking crazy. The dude let you go. You gonna stop that, homie. You gonna be running around LA. You gonna stop that. Come on, Snoop, we bigger than this. It's all good, And Snoop was like, "Yeah, fuck that nigga," or, "that nigga did something," or he said something crazy. I said, "What?" Never heard Snoop talk like that. But he was high and he thought he had all those, I guess, soldiers with him or whatever, but they had left. I don't think he realized they had left. They went and got on stage. And so, like, Snoop. So I said, "Trey, you hear what that nigga said? I told Trey, you better bomb on that nigga." And Trey bombed on him. Snoop took off and ran, as in his own statements, in the police report, the report, or whatever y'all want to call that document, because we knew where y'all was stationed at. Not how the old boy explains it. He said we knew where they were stationed at, so we ran towards y'all in fear of our lives. Dad's hollering, "They have guns, they have guns. They got guns." We go chasing them, trying to get away from them. By then, people were scared from the running and stuff, and they hear like what they thought were gunshots. Now the whole auditorium, the Universal Theater, is emptying. But we're in a green room in a back room. We went a different way. We went out through the audience. I was smart, I knew it. We went out and mingled up within the crowds. They the one came running backstage and ran out towards the police and all of that way. That's why we didn't get jacked, because we went out through the auditorium and went out that way. And so we ain't made no contact. The next time I talked to Master P was the next day him and Snoop called me on the phone. And we all three had a conversation on the telephone. I ain't seen no limit soldier, no police or anything on that particular night. It was only about 5 or 6 of us, and we got out of there with no problems. Only thing Master P was like, man, Reg, luckily it was towards the end of the show, man, you cost me a couple of $100,000, man. You know, and he just jokingly said that, but he ain't never asked or saying, y'all gonna pay me back, because that's what we would have been hollering. You niggas gonna pay us back our money. We lost out, you know. But he ain't said nothing like that, P. P just said, man, Reg, we're gonna continue to have problems. And Snoop was on the phone. He said, I got Snoop on the phone. And Snoop was like, Reg, what's up? Every time we see each other, it's gonna be like this? And I was like, no, Snoop, you was the one, you know, being disrespectful and kept talking and all of that. And I said, but it's all good. We were just coming to holler at you, Snoop. I don't even think I have spoken to Snoop since then, or anything to deal with Snoop, other than when he did something for me on the Relatives, with the Relatives album. And that was through other people.